Hello, welcome to the latest in our fireside chats, which is probably not the most appropriate metaphor given it's almost 30 degrees today outside, but we'll go with it anyway. And with me today is Mark Cotton. And hi, Mark, how you doing?
Good, thank you. Like you say, hot, very hot.
Hot and sweaty.
Yeah.
So today we wanted to talk about Dynamics 365. In the last fireside chats, we talked all about what was going on with the Power Platform with Ollie, but there's plenty of stuff going on with Dynamics 365. So, Mark, first of all, we were just before we hit record talking about the timelines for when people can expect this, and as a reminder, this isn't something people have a choice in now in terms of the upgrade. So, what are the dates now that this Wave 2 release occurs?
Yeah, okay. So primarily for our customers, Crimson's customers, we tend to have our Dynamics Online instances in the UK. So the CRM 11 zone, and they will be hitting us the weekend of the 10th, so starting the 10th of October. So when people come to work on Monday, I've got my date wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
You'll have to edit that. So when they come to work on the following Monday, then their interface will change. It will look ever so slightly different. There's some nice new features in there that I'll be able to take advantage of. But that's one of the things I wanted to talk about primarily in this video. There's a lot of nice stuff happening in sales and in marketing, etc., etc. But I just wanted to talk about the things that people are going to see immediately when they log in on that Monday morning.
Okay, well, without further ado, let's dig into it.
Okay, all right. So I'll just share my screen, and we'll go through some of it. And what I'm going to do, Mark, is I'm going to go side by side, Dynamics looks like today, and what it's going to look like. So I've got two tabs open in my browser. So this is the Wave 2 release that'll be hitting in that that start of October, and this is as Dynamics is now. So one of the things that I'm not actually able to show yet, because it's not been activated yet in the early access for Wave 2, is these menus here. So where currently it says customers, sales, collateral, etc. What we're going to have is we're going to have like a little drop button like we have up here. So these are going to be collapsible. Now, big deal, so what? But what it actually means for us is, as the solution builders, we're going to be able to take much more advantage of this space over here, because we're always very aware that we don't want users to scroll up and down to get to their menu items, because it's not a very good user experience. So we restrict the amount of things that we tend to put on this menu over here. But having these sections collapsible will give us much more real estate so that we can make it a much more friendly user experience. So that's the first thing. And yeah, small, insignificant, but actually it will make quite a difference. It will make the navigation for the users quite a lot better. So looking forward to that hitting. The next thing, if I click through to, let's say, opportunities, for example, okay, this looks different. So for us that use Dynamics day in, day out, immediately to us it looks quite different, but it might not be so obvious to most users. So let's go side by side and let's look at the differences. If I click through into opportunities in the old interface as well, and just switch between the two, not much, but let's go through it. These lines are a little bit more pronounced. So in between in each individual line, the grey shade of the line is a little bit more pronounced. It actually makes for a much more usable experience. And so what we'll see is just subtle differences between the two interfaces. So that's as Dynamics is currently. This is Wave 2. Subtle differences, but they're important. So here you can see that the grey line in between these rows of data in the view is ever so slightly darker. And that helps with accessibility. And we need to consider all of these things when we're designing these interfaces. Another small change, which it makes usability much more obvious, is you'll notice that as I'm just moving up and down, this little radio button over on the left-hand side is showing up. It doesn't do that in the current interface. So it's not obvious that you can click there and click there and click there to mark the records. In the current interface, it's not so obvious, but it is in the new one. And it's all these little things that will make user engagement and user adoption much easier, because it's much more obvious and it's much more in line with what we're familiar with in our user experience in Excel and on websites and etc. These days.
Strikes me that it's marginal gains, and I suppose we have to bear in mind that Microsoft are constantly monitoring how everybody must use these systems. So they've obviously tested to see that this is going to be something that people will be able to work more quickly with. Yeah,
absolutely. It's you're so right, Mark, and you'll know with in the role that you do, I bang on my guys all the time about when we're designing web pages. It's the tiny things, it's the tiny details, it's get all of those tiny details right. Then as a whole, it just becomes a much more pleasant user experience. And this is working towards that. So yeah, that's all good. One thing that has come into Wave 2 is this little rather insignificant little button up here in the top of the view. And this is a huge step forward, I think, in terms of usability, how people are going to use these grids. When we go live with a solution for a customer, we get a lot of requests to change these views. So during the development of a solution for somebody, they all think that they want to see, they think they know what they want to see on these on-screen reports, views as we call them. But it isn't until they go live with the solution and they actually start using it day in, day out, that they realize the data that they actually want to see coming through onto their views. And so we go through the exercise of teaching them how to use Advanced Find and how on Advanced Find to set it up how you want it and save it and so on. But what this little button has done is it's made that experience much better. So let me show you. If I click on this button just here now, this little dialog box pops up, which shows me all of the fields that are currently visible in this view. So what I can do is I can add a column. Let's say I'll add budget onto the column. Okay, I'll click close. That puts budget all the way down there. I can now drag and drop it and put it somewhere else. I can click apply, and there it is. Budget is now on my view. Now that's small and, you know, so what, but actually it's a big leap forward in terms of usability. It's really quite good. And the benefit of this is at the moment that's not saved. Now actually you might think, well, I want it to be saved, but what we find is with users, as they're starting to use this, they do, as they're becoming familiar with their solution, they do a lot of playing around before they find out where their comfortable spot is with their views of data. So actually you'll see if I move off and go to another view and come back to that one, you'll see that that budget column has actually disappeared. Now, personally, I think that's a good thing. Now, when the user has made up their mind and they now figure out where they actually, that they figured out their view that they do want, okay, they can realign it, put budget where they actually want it. And of course, we do have the ability to save the view.
Now, this is something I definitely do all the time, so I know that personally is something that I will find useful.
Yeah.
One question though, are you able to adjust the width of the columns?
It's a great question. Now, so something that's just happened just very recently, and again in this current wave, is if I do that, okay, and make it smaller, and go off onto another view and come back onto that one. If I left it long enough to do it, it gets persisted.
Love it.
Yeah,
I really like that.
Isn't it funny? It's these silly little things, but just each step just makes it for a much nicer user experience, each bit. So yeah, that didn't happen before.
Well, I might exaggerate when I say hours, but I'm sure it probably is over the years of creating views, advanced finds, saving the view. Oh God, that's brilliant. That's really.
It's funny, isn't it? These small little things we get excited about. So the next thing I want to talk about, again, it just makes for a better user experience is this. So at the moment, I'm looking at a particular opportunity, and if I want to go back to my list, I can. Okay, but now that view of that opportunity is gone. So oftentimes what people want to do is they want to open this up in a separate window and, you know, drag it off elsewhere just to keep it and then go back to working their list. Now again, tiny weeny little button, just click that little button that's at the top, and that's opened up that opportunity into a new window. And there's actually a bunch of advantages by doing that. Still now got that view available in the background. So when I opened it up into a new window, it switched back to the view, the on-screen report. But what I've also got as well now is this URL. So it gives me the URL to that record, which I can now do things like drop in a Teams chat to talk to people about it, or send them an email, all that sort of stuff. So again, just small steps, just makes the usability a little bit better.
Good, I like that.
Yeah. So let's go back now, talk about this radio button that I've got over here. That makes it a little bit more obvious that I'm selecting records. What people will do with that once they've selected records is they'll do a bulk edit. Now, previously in the older version, when you click on bulk edit, I wonder if I can see it actually. If I go into the old interface, let's click on a few records and let's go into edit. This screen appears, and this is in the style of an interface from quite a while ago. What we now have in the new interface is it actually shows us the form as in the definition of the forms that we see when we click through to the record. So it's just a better user experience. It's more familiar with us now. We can click through to the sections as we know them, because we use them day in, day out when we click through to the record, rather than this rather ugly version of the same thing. So that's a good step forward. And then also, let's just do something. Let's set the purchase process to committee. What this is going to do is set purchase process on those 4 rows. If I click save, we get a better user experience here. We saw some progress there, 1 of 4, 3, 4, 4 of 4. And in the older interface, when you clicked to change, you just felt like you were in the lap of the gods because it was doing something, but you didn't know how far through it was and when it would finish. What we're seeing is bit by bit, Microsoft are bringing all of the product into the latest interface. And so some of the bits, quite rightly, they've concentrated on, and we've had for a year or so. But all of these other bits that got left behind are now slowly but surely being brought into the new style. So yeah, it's all good progress. One of the other things that we've got in this wave 2 is enhanced experience with the lookups. So just here we can see for this opportunity it's doing a lookup across to contact, and it's choosing Susan. Now in here I can type in Susan and it will find her, okay, but it will only search through Susan and whatever other fields it's got here. Now what we now have is this new little button down here called advanced lookup. So what we can do is we've now got the full power of the full search capability to go off and find all kinds of data from doing a search across all of the fields, across the entities, to pull forward any record that's got the word fab in it somewhere. So whether it's Fabrico or whether it's related to Fabricam, and then we can select the record and we can click done. So it's just, again, as builders of solutions for our customers, we're able to now give a lot more power to the search function when doing these lookups. So again, another great step forward. One of the things that we do within Dynamics, as you'll know, the data in Dynamics, we're able to partition the data such that only certain teams can see data relating to them, or only certain business units can see data related to them. And so oftentimes we'll do a lot of analysis with the customer to figure out how we partition the data. So for example, the guys in France can't see the data for the guys in the UK, and so on and so forth. One of the things that users can do to step over all of those rules is to share records. So a user in the UK, for example, can share a record to the guys in France, and then it just cuts straight through all of those permissions and allows the sharing of the records. But the sharing experience has been a bit clunky in the past. Now again, what we now have is the ability to share records with a new interface. So if I click on a record and click on share, okay, a new style interface pops up. If I go and find a user, I don't know, let's find a couple of users, okay, and now what I can do is once I've got the user selected, I can click on share. I haven't chosen a good user. Hold on a second. Let's scroll down. Find somebody down here. Okay. Now what I can do is I can select the user and I can give this particular user read access to that, and I could give this user read and write. I can't because of a warning about permissions, but you get the idea. I could give this user read and write. I could give this user just write. And once I'm happy with the sharing privileges that I've set, I can click on share, and away it goes. And again, just a much more modern, much more user-friendly interface for the sharing experience.
That's very good.
Yeah. This guy up here, this universal search, we've been able to switch that on for people's instances of Dynamics for a while, but we've only been doing it if the customer has asked us to, and if it's a new solution that we're building for customers, we'll probably switch it on by default, actually, because it's really quite useful. But we will certainly have a discussion with the customer to see if they want it. In Wave 2, it will be on. So the default is that it will be on, and you can switch it off if you want. Kind of wonder why you would, but you can. So what does it do? Well, it's a global search across all of the entities within Dynamics that we set up. So if I go up into there and type in fab and hit enter, it brings me through to a relevant search screen and shows me that it's found 134 results in all of these places. So I can scroll down them. I can go through and just click through to the opportunities that contain the word fab. So it's a much more friendly way of searching across the whole environment to find any data.
Really, that's really powerful.
Yeah, it is, and you know, the way that it categorizes it all up here, it just makes it for a much more easy, user-friendly experience. So now, a killer thing that for me as a maker of solutions is a real great step forward. One of the things that we get asked a lot is, how can I know when an opportunity has been assigned to me? How can I know when a new case has been created? How can I know when an opportunity that is greater than £1 million has been set to 1? All those things. And our standard answer to that kind of thing is, well, we can build a dashboard for you. And the reason why we jump at that as an answer is because I never like putting automation into a system that sends emails to people. Because of course we could. I could send you an email every time you win an opportunity or every time an opportunity is assigned to you. But all that happens there is human nature. You just start deleting those emails and paying very little attention to them.
You end up creating maybe a subfolder and they all gather in there. Or yes, we don't need any more email.
Yeah, absolutely right. Indeed, we don't. And so what we've now got is what we refer to as toast notifications, and we call it toast notifications because in the old days we used to have these little icons down here and little bits of toast used to pop up and notify us of something meaningful. So we still refer to them as toast notifications. And so what we've got now in the new interface is this little bell at the top here. If I click on it, you can see I've got 2 notifications here that I've been sent a couple of days ago and an hour or so ago. Let's dismiss those. Okay, so I now have no notifications. And what I can do is with Cloudflow, with the Power Automate Cloudflow tool, the automation tool, is I can trigger on specific events. So in this example that I've set up here, what I've said is if an opportunity is assigned to me, or if an opportunity is assigned to somebody, then notify that person that they are now the owner of the opportunity. So I'm going to take this one, refrigeration smart sensors. I'm going to assign it to me. And now what's happening in the background is a piece of Cloudflow is firing. It's setting the notification record, and if I can talk for long enough, what I'll notice is that this bell will pop up. What I have noticed actually is that in this early access preview, it doesn't happen immediately. All of the documentation says that it will happen immediately, so I think it's safe to assume that it will, but right now it doesn't. So let's stop waiting around for it. If I click on the little bell, not yet, there you go, click on the little bell. Smart refrigeration smart sensors opportunity has popped up in my little toast, and given time, maybe a minute, maybe a few seconds, the little number 1 will appear up above the alarm bell there to tell me that I've got a notification.
Ooh.
So it's a little bit more in your face. It's a happy place between dashboards which is where a user would have to go and look to see if there are any opportunities that have been assigned to them. And it's not email or Teams notifications or SMSs or any of that. It's not those. It's just a nice, happy place in the middle where we're able to build up these toast notifications. And we're able to define what these look like. So in the automation that I've created, I've said that there should be a link at the bottom. The link should say the words view opportunity, and when the user clicks on it, it should open that opportunity up into a new dialog window on the front. And that kind of configuration is open to us to do anything we like, put any words in here we like, any kind of title we like, any kind of icon, and then the action is customizable for us as well. And for me, that's a huge step forward. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So the final piece of user interface change that I want to talk about brings us into the next subject that I want to talk about, and that's deprecated features. So things that will disappear from on that Monday morning in October when you come back to your desk and start working. And one of them I'm quite sad about. Let's look at this. This is the old interface. And so this is what we refer to as the jump bar. Some of us call it the ABC bar or the alphabet bar or the alphabet jump bar, whatever it is you want to call it. But it's this jump bar at the bottom. And what it does is it will show me, let's say if I sort by topic, okay, and click on A, it will show me all opportunities that begin with A. Nice little feature. However,
it's gone.
It's gone. Bit sad about that. Again,
I'm assuming that's because the search bar. Is it? Is that why they're thinking?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, this comes back, Mark, to something you were saying earlier. Microsoft will have done thousands of hours of research into how users use their product in order to make all of these little improvements that we've seen. And I can only assume that they've discovered that the jump bar at the bottom is little used these days. And you know what? You can arrive at the same sort of thing. You can do a search and you can find all the A's, all right? But you can also do a filter by, and you can say begins with A, right? And of course, I know it's not as smooth as just clicking the A down at the bottom, but it's good.
Yeah. People have voted with their clicks, haven't they?
Yeah, indeed. So let's look at another couple of deprecated features. Let's go through to the audio equipment opportunity in both old and new. Okay, and in old, you've got status bar down at the bottom. Now, what we'll do at Crimson quite often, it's in one of our design standards documents, is that down at the bottom, we will always make sure that the record status is in the footer at the bottom. And oftentimes we will put down in there the created by user and the created on date, modified by user, modified on date. Just some key bits of information to appear down at the bottom. However, that bar has gone as well now. And the reason for this is because they're trying to make sure that everything that they do works across all browsers and is accessible and works on mobile devices and scales, etc., etc. So that's some of the reasoning behind doing these things. But again, it's one of those things that I'll be sad to see go, because we've used it quite well in the past.
Yeah.
And then lastly, these headers up at the top. So low density headers, as a lot of people will know them, are disappearing, and now the headers are. So if you've got many things up in this top bar, so more than these four, then we'll be able to see them in this list here and scroll up and down. So we've spoken to a lot of our customers that currently use low density headers and switching them across to, or rather telling them that the low density is going and they're going to be using high density in the October. It hasn't been a problem for any of them. So it's more functional rather than less. So that's a good step.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
So yeah, and again, to repeat myself, I wanted to go through those things because those are the things that people will see when they start using it on the Monday morning.
Yeah. Okay.
I wouldn't mind, if we can, I wouldn't mind talking about some of the Teams integration that we're going to get to see.
Yeah, I'd love to. Of course, I think we're all familiar with Teams now compared to 18 months ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interested to learn a bit about what's going on with Teams. And something you said earlier, which I think it's worth repeating here for listeners is that not everything appears, does it, with the wave on, what did we say, the 11th of October when we come into the office?
Yeah.
There are other introductions over a few months period.
Yeah, so wave 2, not all of it hits us on that date. Okay. And it's you can go to the release notes, you can go to the Wave 2 release notes, a quick little Google, you'll find your way there. And what you'll see there is they'll tell you when things are in public preview or early access, and then they'll tell you when the general availability, the GA date is. And so for this Teams, or most of this Teams improvements and Teams work, we're going to see it in January 22. Okay. I haven't yet seen the date for the early access. I hope it's real soon. But yeah, the functionality comes out throughout the window of Wave 2. So it's the 6 months from October. Some of it towards the end, and most of it hopefully at the beginning. But yeah, it's not all going to hit us on that date. So the Teams integration, I'm going to rattle through some of it. I haven't got any screenshots, and certainly, because there isn't any early access availability, I can't show you. But what I think we should do, Mark, is when it does become available, we'll do another one of these videos because it looks exciting. So one of the things that we're going to be able to do from within the Dynamics timeline window now, so on most entities within Dynamics, in the middle of the form, you'll have what we refer to as the timeline. And so this is the place where people can add emails or add tasks or add phone call activities and that sort of stuff. What we're going to be able to do from within there is we're going to be able to do a Teams call from directly in there. So we'll click on add, we'll click on Teams call, and what it will do is it will Teams dial, instant message dial the contact, for example, in this case. So that's a killer little feature. And the bit I like best about that is that in that activity, then when we're taking notes about what the Teams call is about, and we're recording our meeting notes, that gets recorded back into Dynamics and into the Teams call as well. So it gets persisted in both places. So yeah, that's a good step forward.
Brilliant. That will be very useful.
One small thing, and you know what? I'm kind of actually really surprised it's not there already, but I've checked and it isn't. If within Dynamics you create an appointment, you can't say that it's a Teams meeting. So we're all so used to this, as you say, over the last 18 months. It's just almost, we now assume that every meeting is a Teams meeting. So to see the functionality in Dynamics that the actual default is that it isn't a Teams meeting is quite strange. But that's coming. So soon we'll be able to, when we're creating an appointment in Dynamics, I'm not sure whether it will default to a Teams meeting, but we'll certainly have a little flick switch to say that it is a Teams meeting. And what that will do is it will send to the recipients the link to the Teams call.
Cool.
Nice little things. And today, we join Teams meetings either by clicking on the link in an email or clicking on the link on our phones or whatever, or through our Teams app. What we're going to be able to do is join that Teams meeting from within Dynamics. So for those users that spend most of their life in the Dynamics interface, doing their day job in the Dynamics interface, they're going to be able to go to that appointment in their Dynamics interface and join it directly from there, rather than having to nip out to Teams to do it or nip out to their Outlook calendar to do it.
Oh, wow, okay. That'll be interesting to see how they manage the usability with that.
Yeah, it does. And then if you've created an appointment and it's related to, let's say, for example, a particular opportunity, okay, and you're having a meeting related to that, you're having a Teams meeting related to that opportunity will be available to us, so we'll be able to navigate the screens of that opportunity within the Teams meeting. So at the moment, we're used to in Teams meetings, we see chat at the top, we see notes, we see files, that sort of stuff. There'll be another tab in there, no idea what it's going to be called, but there'll be another tab in there which will render the opportunity data in a Dynamics looking screen in that window.
Brilliant. Certainly responsive to this hybrid world now that we're working in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the final thing, which I think is going to be really useful, is at the moment when we're creating notes and so on, again in the timeline in Dynamics, we can @mention people. So at Mark Britton, I can chat, and then that draws your attention to the fact that a note has been taken with your name in it. What we're now able to do is, or rather, what we will be able to do when that functionality, when the Teams integration functionality is greatly improved, is those app mentions will cause a Teams chat to fire. So the Teams chat will fire up, and you'll see that, or what has been said in that app mention. So again, much tighter integration. Looking forward to seeing it. Looking forward to getting my hands on it and playing with it. But
certainly, coming from a marketing perspective, I think that close collaboration with sales and marketing, I could imagine that being really useful if you're discussing the progress of an opportunity. Yeah, I can see that being really useful.
Well, you think about it. You think how we collaborate today around meetings. So think of the meeting that we had yesterday. There was chat going on during the meeting, and then that meeting ended. But then that same chat instance within Teams has been continued with, and people have been continued to contribute to it. So the very same thing you can foresee happening with this tight integration around opportunities. Yes, you might have an opportunity, you might have a meeting about that opportunity on a Tuesday afternoon, but then people can continue to collaborate around it, and it'll all be captured. So it's great step forward.
Brilliant! Wow, some exciting stuff to look forward to then.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
Brilliant. Okay, well, Mark,
future's bright.
The future's bright. The future's crimson. I've heard that one before somewhere. Mark, appreciate your time as always. I know you're really busy. Anybody listening today, if you are a Crimson client, of course, speak to your account manager. We'll be more than happy to dig a little deeper into the implications for your own organisation. If you aren't a Crimson client, why aren't you? We do have many workshops that we can run through to help you get the most from your Dynamics investment and understand the implications of future changes. So we would love to talk to you about that as always, of course. But I think for now, we'll leave it there and say goodbye. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Cheers, Mark. Thank you.